Welcome back to the ROKK Rundown. Today is, well, it's really never a slow day in Washington, so here we go again. But I think that when I tried to reflect on what was happening this week, we're fresh out of the primaries from yesterday. There's news every minute. Specifically from your background, both of you guys come from a place where message discipline was everything that you have been taught, everything that you've been part of. That's totally different today. Every single day out of this administration, there are 5 or more messages that come through. Is that effective? Is that confusing? I'm curious about your perspective about the way message discipline has changed. What do you say, Ron?
I'd say during the first Trump administration, the communications shop had a really tough time catching up with President Trump. They call it riding the wave. So when they would come in with a plan for the morning and they thought Trump signed up with it, they thought they were off to the races. And then by 9:30, 10 o'clock, Trump had announced something or had done something different. And they were like, all right, well, let's just go with it, people, type of thing. Now there is a strategy behind it, a clear strategy. It is to overwhelm the news media with content, with stories, to continue to overwhelm the headlines. The public is saturated by Trump, and it makes it harder for their critics to catch up. They may focus on one of the stories, but they can't get to all of them necessarily. And that kind of volume and content on social media makes it very difficult then for you not to see, hear, or something, because everyone has their own algorithm. So 5 stories that we're seeing developed, maybe someone with the algorithm, they see 2 of those stories. But I think that's why they're doing it. Plus, even if they tried to do one story, I don't think Trump would let them anyway.
Yeah, I think you make a good point there.
I think the flip side to that is that, and I 100% agree with the algorithm, but I'd also say this. I think that there's still universal truths and there are universal news that everyone shares. And regardless of, there could be 10 stories coming out. There are 2 things that if you talk to most Americans that they will talk about. One is affordability and prices. No one is escaping that. And the second is Iran. And I think that to a certain extent, this administration, in trying to look over here, when things are going well, I think that you could do that. You could bury some I don't really want to talk about this thing, let's talk about that. But I don't think there's any escaping the fact that gas prices, at least in this area, over $4. That does link back to the Iran war. Why did we even get into it in the first place? How are we going to get out of it? So on and so forth. And this just in general, what are we going to do to bring prices down? Harken back to the research that we did here at ROKK about voters blaming corporate America at the same rate that they blame this administration about rising prices, and should Democrats take over the House or the Senate in this next election, them wanting to work with Trump to investigate these corporations, put in price controls, roll back corporate taxes, and so on and so forth. The other thing that I would say, just specifically on this, is that the 5-story strategy is good when you're trying to bury some stuff that you might not otherwise want to talk about. It's not necessarily great when you're trying to also, there might be a couple of good stories in there that they tend to, I feel as though this president more than anyone, and it's got to have like Susie Wiles and other there kind of, pulling their hair out. Every now and again they have a good story. And it's like, oh wow, we could try to run with this for a couple of days, and then Trump will go out there and he'll get bored and he'll say something else, and then poof, it goes away. So there's another side to that.
Yeah, no, I think Trump's strategy is he wishes you a good morning when you wake up, and he wishes you good night when you go to bed. He is always wants to be there, all over it, and no matter what you think, he wants to be part of the conversation in your head.
There's no denying, though, that he is, like we all talk about authenticity till we're blue in the face, and he's the guy, we know exactly who he is. Yesterday, the Paxton-Cornyn race, it's all the news today. Everybody's talking about what happened there, and we'll continue to talk about that. There'll be Sunday shows will be talking about that. What do you make of the authenticity versus resume game? Because it feels like now senior level corporate folks have to either consider that they go for who they are unapologetically and sometimes in a little bit of an out of the box way, or they run on their own pedigree. It's a little different. How do you think about that when you counsel your clients?
I don't necessarily think that it's as divergent as you might think. Sometimes it's 2 sides of the same coin. And just talking specifically about Paxton and Cornyn, I actually think Cornyn is his authentic self. He came up as a certain kind of politician. He's been doing this for 20 some odd years. I think for a consultant to come out, and also, by the way, Paxton's not like some like neophyte. I mean, Paxton has a resume, he's in politics for a long time. They just come at it a little bit differently. And I think that if you were a consultant to Cornyn and you were just reading the tea leaves and you're like, hey, listen, this guy kind of talks like this and he seems like a little bit just more, rougher, not in a bad way, but in the way that he comes across, and maybe he's more relatable or this or that, and you should be that person. I think asking somebody that has been doing it a certain way for 23 years to change is madness. And I saw it with people like Harry Reid, where every now and again I'm like, oh God, I wish you wouldn't say it like that, but he was going to be who he was. I worked for John Kerry in 2004 in his presidential, and there were a lot of folks who were like, I wish you weren't so erudite. I wish you weren't so, New England in the way that you were. He wasn't going to change. He had been a politician for 30 years. So I think my bigger point on this is that you have to be authentically who you are, even if that authenticism, it makes you a quote-unquote suit or an establishment politician or an establishment CEO. I think you've got to go with who you are, especially if you've been doing it for a long time, because to your point, voters, customers, employees will 100% see that, they'll see through your crap if you're trying to be someone that you are not.
Yeah, you absolutely can be authentic, but you can also be polished at the same time. And that takes a lot of practice, and that's what we do with our clients, is we help them through media training preparation, for congressional hearing prep, all of those things that you would need to do to practice over and over, and they just have to be out there in the space, so to speak. The shareholders want to see positive returns from the company, and the CEO is guiding that company through thick and thin. They want someone who's speaking real to them, but who also has an incredibly solid business pedigree and the acumen to make sure that happens. And we're the PR people to help them accomplish that.
When you do that, Ron, when you counsel them, when they go into a room, so much of events today have become less about the big speech and more about the social media moment. How do you counsel clients when that happens?
Right. Making sure that speech goes well is the most important thing that they can do, because from that speech are where we come in and take the sound bites out of them to turn them into clips for social media algorithms that then get distributed to the targeted audiences. We can do the quotes and all that, but video is really king. So pulling that really matters. Now, if you're going into congressional testimony and you're providing that, that's really important. Your performance and how you appear in front of members of Congress is extremely vital. What is also as important is when you're walking out into the hallway, and if you're a high-profile CEO, the media is going to be around you. And what are you going to do that? How are you going to use that moment? What's the strategy behind that moment? Are you going to say something that's going to reinforce it, or are you going to walk to the car and let the speech stand for itself? It all depends on the strategy and what's being said, but those are the things that we consider when we're talking to our clients.
Yeah, that's smart. That's really smart. Any parting thoughts, Rodell?
Probably not. I mean, I think I said it all, right?
I think I'm like...
How optimistic are you about Texas for the Democrats?
I would say this, that politics are about timing and opportunity, and you've got a Democratic candidate who I think can pull center-right votes, and he's running against someone who's polarizing even in his own party. So I think that this is likely the best chance that Texas Democrats have had in a generation to win statewide. That also being said, that it's a state that has been reliably red, so I think it's still an uphill battle.
Okay.
Yeah, well, hold on. I got to jump in on that.
Please.
Yeah, I think it is an uphill battle, and Republicans spend a lot of money. I have to say this because it just came to my mind. James Tallarico is an incredible fundraiser, and he's a great candidate. But is he the Democratic NFT of this cycle? Is he the thing? Everybody puts the money in, it turns into nothing. Type of thing? We'll have to see. But that's what makes it exciting. That's why we're in politics, because sometimes you don't know.
Well, stay tuned, because more ROKK Rundown coming with all kinds of predictions.
It's getting really exciting.